Welcome to the Simpler Business Podcast, where we talk about ways to do what you love and serve your people in a way that brings you income and freedom. I'm your host, Marissa Roberts. Join me as I chat with my favorite entrepreneurs about how they simplify their biz so that you can simplify yours. Are you sabotaging your productivity? If you're wondering why you're working so much in your business, but you're not seeing a lot of momentum or results yet, it might just be that there are a few little habits that are getting in the way of you achieving your business goals. Think about your workday from start to finish. What are your main priorities? What are you focusing on? Is it the stuff that moves your business forward in terms of growth and sales, or do you feel busy all day and then look back and think nothing actually got done? I only like to work a couple of hours each day and I run 2 businesses. So that means I need to be really productive with my time, which is fantastic when everything is aligned. I'm in the zone, I'm working in flow, but sometimes it's the little things that I slip up on, and I know I'm not the only one doing it. There are things that we don't consciously think about as we're doing them, and one by one, they don't seem like big things, but when you add them all up, they make a huge difference to how productive we are. So what are these things? What are the little habits that are killing our productivity? Well, I have a very special guest on the show today who's going to walk us through 6 of them one by one and show us how to handle them smoothly and take back our productivity as business owners and entrepreneurs. Allison Scholes is a content coach and podcaster who helps mompreneurs create less but better content through coaching templates and her content creation club. Allison also hosts her podcast, Social Media for Mompreneurs. Each week, the show helps busy mums not only create content on their own terms, but build their brand online in just minutes a day, even when those minutes are hard to come by. Allison believes content creation should be fun and done with ease and not overwhelming. And I love that because I truly agree. With her sassy and fun personality, mixed with her creativity and love for sweatpants and coffee, she's able to deliver the simple and creative tools to help mompreneurs boost their business with confidence and ease. She knows exactly how it feels to grow a business and brand, create content, and raise a family at the same time. So she can definitely relate to our need for productivity and the habits that are holding us back. So Allison, welcome. I am so excited that you're here with me today.
Oh, Marissa, thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to chat about this topic because we all suffer from it as entrepreneurs for sure.
Yeah. This is a really big topic for our listeners because I think most of us know what it's like to feel busy all day and then look back and go, I can't even remember what I did, because we're constantly getting interrupted. You know, life and work, it's not so much a balance, it's more of a juggle for many of us, especially over the last couple of years. And I find even now, I've been in the business 10 plus years. I think we're going on 11 or 12 now. And I still have days where I'm like, I know I worked, like I know I put in a solid chunk of work time and I could not tell you what I actually got done. And yeah, I know it's not just me. There's a ton of us out there. So this is going to be such a fun chat.
Yes, for sure. And I love that you brought up the word balance in there, because I like to point out that I actually don't believe in the word balance. I like to reframe the word balance and replace it with priorities, because our priorities change day to day. So I don't believe that there's this perfect picture of balance in your business and life, because your priorities are going to change day to day, week to week, and even year to year.
Yes, exactly. And I really do believe you can have ease without having or needing balance. It's a completely different concept in my brain.
Yes.
Yay. All right. Well, let's jump in because I'd really love to know your insights. Why do you think that we struggle with productivity as business owners, entrepreneurs, mompreneurs? What do you think really is the reason we have such a tough time with it?
There's probably a plethora of answers to that because everyone's lives are different. But I think really 2 things really stand out for most of us. Number one, there is a difference between productivity and a to-do list. There is a difference. Productivity is hyper-focused activities that move the needle in your business. Then we have the to-do list or the everyday tasks. And the problem is we're mixing them in our everyday life. And when we mix them and intertwine them, we don't really know then what is the actual hyper-focus activities I should be doing when you're just mixing it in with your to-do list. And then the second thing to that, and this is probably really has happened in the last 2 years because of COVID, and most people are just on their devices and social media so often, we are out of alignment with our values. We're too busy staying in alignment with what other people are doing, the so-called social norm. And we need to forget that altogether. And we need to get back into alignment with who we are and back to our values and what we want to do in our lives. And that is so easy to forget and to overlook when you are constantly on social media and you're just constantly watching what other people are doing and you're just aiming to grow and you're following this person and downloading this download, and you really fall out of alignment and you're just finding yourself doing what everyone else is doing. And then you kind of look at the big picture and go, how did I get here?
That's so true. And you're looking at other people and you don't have time to fully focus on all the things that everyone's doing. So you're doing like a tiny bit here and there because of FOMO, fear of missing out, or imposter syndrome, or like if they made it, I need to do what they're doing to make it. But when you've got 7 or 8 different people that you're watching continuously going, I should be doing what they're doing. How do you fit 7 or 8 full-time jobs into one person's career? Like you can't focus on everything at the same time. It's really difficult. You end up doing hardly anything on each focus and then no momentum builds.
That's exactly right. You stay in what I call is a state of inspiration. And when we stay in that cycle for too long, you become paralyzed. And when you're paralyzed, you don't take any action. So it's okay to be on social media to get the inspiration and to learn. But when you find yourself being paralyzed and not taking action, that's when you need to turn it off. That's when you need to mute accounts and step away so you can put your head down and go back to why you started your business, go back to your values, and then you can start taking action and moving the needle in your business.
Yeah. And, I think there's a trap with social media, isn't there? When you go on your phone and you go down that rabbit hole, it's been a couple of hours and you feel like you've been working, but you haven't. You've just been consuming.
Right. Exactly. Oh yeah. Stop consuming.
There's a big danger with that one. All right. So let's talk more about these habits, because I've heard you talk about this before, and I was like, aha moment. I'm doing that too. That's a light bulb. And, after so many years in the business, you think, oh no, I know exactly what I'm doing. No. They sneak in. So I thought, if you want to, do you want to walk through them one by one? We'll share the habit and then be like, right, here's how we can handle that or manage that better. What do you think?
Yeah, I love that idea. And I'll just jump right into the first habit because we've actually already touched on it a bit when we were chatting, but that is too much social media time. So really first, how long are you spending, or how long are you on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and even TikTok? So most of us have smartphones and you can actually track each app how much time you're spending. I really want to encourage your listeners to look at it, because you might be thinking, no, I don't spend that much time on those apps, but I really want you to get in there and I really want you to look at that. And then it'll tell you how much you spent on those apps for the entire week. And it's kind of like, it's daunting to look at it at first. And then you're going to realize, ooh, I was on there way too much. And then secondly, how many times a day are you getting on the platforms? Ooh. The minute you have downtime, are you grabbing your phone and getting on Instagram to like maybe check your likes? Because we all have like that vanity thing, right? We want to check. So how many times are you actually getting on the platforms each day? And then I want you to ask yourself, is it really necessary? Do you really need to be opening up those apps several times a day? And that's something else to think about. I want you to picture yourself in 5 years. Do you want to be doing what you're doing today in 5 years? And that's kind of the aha moment. And then you'll realize, no. Like, do you really want to be scrolling social media like a maniac in 5 years? Most of the time people are going to shake their heads, no. So why are you doing it now? And is it that FOMO, fear of missing out? So like I said before, there is a difference between being inspired and staying paralyzed. We fall into content overload. Don't get sucked into it. And I don't think people really realize you do have the power and control to limit your exposure and activity on social media. And the first thing you want to do is turn off all of your social media notifications.
Yes.
I want you to, turn them off, protect your peace, and also protect your mental well-being. And a lot of us have kids at home. What are you showing them? If mom is on her phone all the time, mom's on Instagram, mom's on TikTok or Facebook, what example are you showing your children? And if you're sitting there going, don't be on your phones or your devices, but they see you doing it all the time, then they're done that.
Yeah. And it means nothing when we say, but we're working.
It does. It really doesn't. Because are you really working, or are we just falling into the scroll? And then that's when you get into the, not only the comparison, but what I see happening now is what I call content comparison. You are now comparing your post, your captions, your graphics, the way, you do your podcast or your videos for YouTube. It is just a constant spiral. And the thing is, you do not want to be comparing your content, because you are you and your audience is loyal to you. And what someone else is doing in their business doesn't mean it's right for you.
Yeah. And I find too, when you follow different people or you hop from one entrepreneur to another where you spend a lot of time consuming their content, you run the risk of sounding like them for 2 or 3 weeks before you move on to someone else.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of people in my community know my tagline, don't be like Loki. So yes, I don't know if your listeners are familiar with Marvel, and Loki is actually the villain in the Avengers and Thor. And I always say you can love Loki in the movies, but don't be like Loki online. Don't be like Loki in your business, because what does he do? He manipulates his audience. He's a trickster. He can change into somebody else. He can mimic somebody else. And that's what we end up doing when we are consuming so much content. You're going to end up being like Loki. And at the end of the day, it never works for him, and it's not going to work for you. Nobody trusts him. Exactly.
That's such a good point. And, I think with social media too, it's so tricky because we keep our phones handy, especially as mums. We keep our phones with us all day thinking, what if the school calls? What if there's emergency? What if an appointment needs to get rescheduled? And because the phone is right there, do you know how many times I haven't even realized that I've been working on something and then I'm actually holding my phone. I haven't even realized I've picked it up and I'm scrolling through Facebook, and it's almost like my thumb. It's like my hand is Thing from Wednesday or the Addams Family, and it's just working on its own doing it. It's crazy, right?
It's almost on autopilot.
Yeah. On the days where I really need to focus, I found I have to put my phone in a drawer in another room and think to myself, if there's a real emergency, honestly, and I'm sorry if this has happened to somebody, but I can't think of an example where a school has caught on fire in the middle of the day, or someone's had to people would call in Australia, they'd call 000 and call the emergency services. I'm not the first phone call if it's a real emergency. And if it's not a real emergency, people can wait half an hour.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
I love that. When I say it, but we put everybody's needs first, don't we? And
We do.
Yeah.
Wow. So that is the first bad habit, is too much social media time. Now, the second bad habit that I think a lot of us don't realize is, I want you to think about this question. What is your end of day bedtime routine?
Ooh.
Is your phone in your hand? How many of you are actually sitting in bed with your phone in your hand, or it's on your nightstand?
Oh.
And are you getting enough sleep? Is your sleep disrupted constantly? Because here's the thing. There are so many studies that link quality of sleep to your productivity during the day. So it's up to you to create a better end of day bedtime routine. So for example, for me, and I'm about 95% pretty good at this, is after 7 p.m., my phone is put away. I do not open my phone. I'm not checking social media. I'm not even going to check, my inbox, nothing. And the only thing that I have on there is, I think, a few people, because I usually put do not disturb on, but I only allow my parents and my husband and my kids to be able to get through. It's the only people I really need to be in contact with at after 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And here's another thing. I do not bring my phone in my bedroom at night.
Oh,
I actually leave it downstairs in the kitchen. So my husband has his on his nightstand because we don't have a landline anymore. So I know he has his, but his is on silent. It's on the nightstand and he doesn't look at it either. But my phone is not even near me in the evening. And I sit in my bed and I read a book almost every night. And I'm telling you, my quality of sleep is so much better ever since I instilled that habit of not bringing my phone in my bedroom at night. So that's bad habit number 2, is really messing up your quality of sleep. Because if we're not getting, great sleep, it affects everything in our lives. It affects your mental health, your physical health, your productivity, your family, your relationships. Like, it's a hot mess if you're not getting good sleep.
Yeah, that's so true. And I know a lot of people use their phone as their alarm, but you don't have to do that. You can get an old school alarm clock. You can, if you have Alexa, you can use Alexa as an alarm. That's kind of still a device though. So, that's like still kind of creeping in there. I like how your husband has a phone available for emergencies, but because it's his phone and not yours, we don't have that feeling like we're on call, do we? When it's someone else's phone. So that's such a good idea. And I love that you have to go all the way out to the kitchen to get your phone if you need it. So it's not just like open up your bag and get it, or the other side of the room. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's really good. So I think that's like if you choose one bad habit to fix today, it has to be your sleep.
Yeah. And how many of us go, I wish I had more time for reading? We do. We have it at night. Yes. We just usually don't do it.
Yeah. That's like my favorite time of day. I can't wait to like get underneath the comforter and get my pillows and grab my book. And it's like my me time. Yes. I just love that time of day.
Yeah. It kind of feels like self-care because it's slow and it's comforting and it's cozy. Yeah. Totally worth it. And you're right. Better sleep means better work.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't like to read, you can journal at night. You can even get your planner out and just review. What did I accomplish today? Check, check, check. What do I need to do tomorrow? Write it down, then put that notebook to the side and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about anything as you go to sleep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So turn off notifications, less time on social media, and don't take your phone to bed with you, and try and switch off early so you've got time to decompress and actually chill out before you go to sleep. That's going to help with that mental to-do list too, I think, because then you're not thinking about all the things you have to do tomorrow. So those 2 tips alone are already gold. What about habit number 3?
All right, this is my favorite one because I think most people don't think about this one. Are you a yes person? Do you say yes to everything? I used to be that person, right? Because you're trying to build a business and it's that FOMO. You feel that you're going to miss out on an opportunity or a collaboration. But there is a place for collaborations or taking quick questions from your audience. But you're going to have to learn how to draw the line in the sand. I have had past clients or even business friends who over and over will DM me on Instagram with a long-winded voice text. And sometimes they're in-depth questions. And I'm thinking to myself, like,
that's a coaching session.
It is. Exactly. I'm so glad you said it really is. So you almost, maybe you need to establish like a really, like an affordable 1-hour coffee chat coaching session for all of those like general business questions that you are a rock star at, but your audience needs help with. Because what's going to happen is they are going to learn your behavior. They're going to learn that you're a yes person and they're just going to constantly go after you and you're just going to lose time, right? Your productivity time answering all these questions. And not all collaborations are good. So quick story, about 1.5 years ago, I had a podcaster approach me wanting to do an interview for an article that he was doing on like new podcasters, like how to start a podcast. And I didn't know him. He had a successful podcast, but something in me was telling me like, I don't think this is worth it. But it was that FOMO. I was like, ooh, this is a person who has a lot of downloads. Maybe I should do this. I did. So I spent so much time preparing for this interview, a lot of time preparing because it was a face-to-face. I've never met him before. Of course, I'm going to be in the bathroom getting ready and the hair and the, the nice top. And it lasted like 20 minutes. The article took 5 months to be published. And do you want to know my portion was?
How big?
2 sentences. It was 2 sentences and it was buried at the bottom of the article.
Was there like a lot of collaborators in it?
Yes, which I did not know of. He collaborated with probably over 50 podcasters. And my section was at the bottom.
Yeah.
No one's going to read it. It was not worth sharing. And I was mad at myself because I was like, I should have listened to my intuition. So not all exposure is good. People think, oh, you need exposure. You need visibility, but it's not all good. It's not going to benefit you. So you want to trust your gut. So if it feels really good and you're excited about it, do it. But if you kind of have that, you either need to draw a line in the sand or say no, or, maybe do some other time or say, yes, I will have a meeting with you. This is my flat fee for coaching.
Yep. Here's the link to book in.
Yes,
save it in your notes on your phone. Yeah. Right.
Because you know what? I think this is women and moms and nurturers in general. We're givers, right? We have this deep sense in our bodies and our souls that we want to help.
Yeah.
But we have to remember why we started our business in the first place. And there's normally 2 reasons: time freedom and financial freedom. And guess what? If you're a yes person, you're ruining both of those right there.
And I'm a people pleaser. I don't like confrontation. And so I have really struggled with this in the past because I don't want people to get mad at me, even though it does. I know I'm a grown woman, it's no big deal. People aren't always going to agree with me, but I feel really icky at the idea of putting people out or making them mad at me. And so my husband would be able to attest to this. I just default say yes to everybody all the time because I don't want to make people mad. And then 3 different people all want different things at the same time and it'll all conflict and I'll have said yes to everybody. And then they're all cranky anyway because I can't deliver because I've overloaded my plate and forgotten who the priority is. And it's a mess. And, I think a lot of it is, how can you make it easy to say no as well? Ever since I actually sat down and wrote down scripts on how to reply to brain picking requests or copy date requests that you don't normally get paid for, I used to say yes all the time because I didn't know how to say no. And then one day I went, you know what? I'm just going to write 7 ways to say no nicely. And I'm just going to copy paste one of them every time. Big difference. Big difference. Yeah.
Ooh, there's a freebie idea for you.
I know, I've got it on the website.
No, right? Oh, I'm going to go pick at that because I still have a hard time.
I share it now because I'm like, if I struggled with that, everybody's going to struggle at some point. You're so right, though. Saying yes to everything, it's like you do think, okay, this could be a good opportunity. I don't want to miss out on it. But honestly, then you're putting so much time into stuff that doesn't move your business forward. And we do know intuitively if something's a good fit, right? If it feels easy and it feels good, we're on the right track. But if you're not on the right track, don't you?
Right. And here's the quote of the day. Don't be a yes person, be a strategic collaborator.
Oh, yeah. And you get more respect anyway in the long run. And when you're doing a collaborative project where it's a mutual collaboration, you're positioned better. You're not positioned as one of many. You're positioned as an authority in your field. And that makes a really big difference in terms of business growth.
Yes, absolutely. All right. You ready for bad habit number 4?
Oh, yeah.
And I think all of us do this. And I still catch myself doing this. We kind of touched on it a bit. But a to-do list. Here's the thing. Is it business producing work or just staying busy? And a lot of us do this when we're first in business, because when we start a business, there is a lot to do in the beginning. But when maybe you came from corporate and you had the 9 to 5, this was a big transition for me, where I always felt like I'm running a business, I'm home with my kids, but I need to be working all the time if I'm going to make this work. And I realized I'm just staying busy. I'm not really working on my business or in my business. And I used to feel guilty if I would be done early. Or just the other day, I got up early. I was actually done by 9:30 a.m. And I kind of felt guilty, but I was like, no, I was hyper focused this morning. I got it done. I did what I needed to do, and my day is good to go. I'm not just going to look around for other meaningless tasks that, number one, is not going to help my business, but number two, it's not good for me mentally or physically, because we forget about that. We forget to work on ourselves, our own mental and health well-being. So if you find yourself like, oh, I should be working. No, you should be working on yourself, not necessarily on your business.
Yeah, we shouldn't be putting that last, because we're kind of on call 24/7 when it comes to family. You don't know when something's going to pop up. And a lot of the stuff that we do on the side, the life admin, the errands, the running around, we don't get paid for that work, but we work just as hard when we do it. It's one of those things. So if I've got a work day and I finish fast, I shouldn't be trying to think of other workday things to cram into that, because am I getting a trophy for it? No. Am I making more sales? If I'm making more sales, great, but that's rarely the case. It's really just that I love ticking off when I've done something, or I want to do that kind of playing the martyr thing where I say to everybody, I'm so busy, I worked so hard all day, and now I've got so much to do around the house. I'm my own boss. I should really just take my own advice.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
You can work less and get the same results. And then you're not like cranky at everybody.
Right? Work smarter, not harder. Or we should say work smarter, not longer.
Yeah. So have you got a favorite way to choose what's the most important thing to do so that you don't have a massive to-do list? Like, do you have a favorite way to go, right, here's what I need to focus on, and once that's done, I'm free for the day?
So what I like to do is I like to I look at the whole week and I go, all right, this week, what are the 2 to 3 most important priorities or tasks that will help move the needle in my business? And then I position those at the beginning of the week.
Oh,
I never want to put anything at the end of the week, because by the end of the week, what's happening? We're already looking at the beginning of the week. What did I not get done? We're already thinking about next week. We're already thinking about the weekend. So I always put those 2 to 3 things in the beginning of the week, because most entrepreneurs, Monday morning, we're ready to go and we are hyper focused at the beginning of the week. That is when I do it. So those meaningless little tasks like your expenses, and maybe, and the other thing to think about it too, what is very easy for you, put it at the end. Yes. Things that are harder and you need more brain cells to do it, a little more difficult, a little more out of your comfort zone, put those at the beginning of the week, because that's when you have the most energy.
Yeah. So the things that you would normally procrastinate on, do them first, right?
Do them first.
Off your plate. And then, so much freedom after that. And you feel like you've accomplished something big. So that's really good. I love that. And I love that you said, go with the time where you work the best. Like most entrepreneurs, Monday morning, super productive, but it's okay if you're not, right? Like if you're somebody who's really productive in the early evenings, once you put your babies and toddlers to bed, that's okay too, right? As long as you're in that sort of focused, productive mood. Is that right?
Like for me, like my most productive days are Tuesdays and Wednesdays, because Mondays is I like that as my prep days.
Oh yeah.
I like just to have it like my big business CEO day where I'm like, okay, what's going on in my business? What's going on this week? Today, I like to map it all out, and because that's my favorite thing to do, and plan it and plan the whole family on Mondays. And then Tuesday mornings, then I'm ready to go with like my hardest tasks to do.
Yeah, that's when you hit the ground running and just get it done. That's such a good idea. I love that one. Okay, cool. All right, what's next? What do we got next?
All right, so bad habit number 5, most of us do this, is 0 boundaries. And I'm not talking just client boundaries or personal boundaries. You have to also include family boundaries.
Ooh.
I think a lot of us, especially if you have little ones at home, we have it, and I used to do this. I would be trying to work when my kids are in the same room, or, they're running around, and I'm not hyper focused. I'm easily distracted. So yes, we need to establish boundaries with our clients when you're going to be taking calls, when you answer emails, when you're going to be doing Voxer, right? And we also have our personal boundaries of when we're working and when we can do our errands. But a lot of the times, I think entrepreneurs do not communicate boundaries to their family members, to their spouse. If you have teenagers in the house, you need to communicate to them when you're working, when you do not want to be disturbed, when you're taking calls, or if you have little ones and your husband needs to be kind of, taking care of the kids in the evening, don't just assume he knows.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Communicate it, right? I know someone who actually does podcast interviews in the evening on like Thursday nights. And she has communicated with her husband that you are not to enter the bedroom or the office unless someone died.
Yeah,
like
someone's on fire.
No, you figure it out. If you have to leave the house, you're taking the kids with you. Don't leave them and say, shh, mommy's working. Like, no. So I think a lot of times we forget to actually communicate that to our spouses and our kids. So have the family boundaries, the personal boundaries, and the client boundaries.
Yeah. And I think if we stick to our boundaries, we role model, and then other people will stick to the boundaries as well, because they see that we're not flexible with them then, right? So we've got to, not just set it, but stick to it ourselves. Like if I tell people I only work 2 hours a day and then I work 8 hours one day out of nowhere, that's me breaking that boundary. And it's not, and I might be like, yeah, but everybody emailed me. I had tons of calls that day. No, I can still delegate. I can still prioritize. It's me that has to follow through on that. And then other people will too. Or if I'm working at home and the kids are home, it's totally fine for me to close my door in the room that I'm working in, right? Like, it's so much easier once we actually do the action that reinforces the boundary too, rather than just tell everybody the boundary exists and then they're like, yeah, but you don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. If we say, oh, I'm not going to take Voxer calls in the evening, but then my clients see that I'm answering them at 8:00 at night, you're not really following through. So make sure, and it's hard, but the good thing is understanding what these habits are, you're going to start recognizing them, and then it's easy for you to get back on track. Yeah. So remember, even though that we're talking about these bad habits, you're not going to be able to just be like, well, I'm never going to do that again. Like, no, things come up in life. These are going to happen. But now that you recognize them and you're able to label what it is as a bad productivity habit, then you're able to make changes quickly and get back to the better habits. Yeah,
it's that awareness. It's noticing that it's happening. It's recognizing it. And once you've kind of spelt it out and written them down, or you've got a list like from today's episode, you're going to just spot them more easily now. Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, we up
All
to
right, we are up to the last one. And this one can be, I don't want to say controversial, but a bad habit that I've heard a lot from other entrepreneurs and business owners is, you're not establishing office hours, or you're not establishing time blocking. And in the beginning, I was kind of like, yeah, you're right. You need to have office hours. But the more I thought about it, I was like, I'm not a big fan of office hours. I am a big fan of creating a weekly schedule built around your tasks. So what I do in my business is I don't have established office hours. I have established themed days based on all the things that I have to do in my business. And how I came up with this is, and it's something that I'm going to share with your audience. This leads right into the freebie that your audience gets today. It's the weekly project workflow for business success. I created theme days and a workflow for each week, so I'm making progress. So what I did one day is because I tried the office hours. It didn't always work. I had kids. You had to pick kids up from school. I would learn that certain tasks would take longer than this, and then it would get pushed over to the next day, and then again, established work hours. I felt like I had to be working the entire time, right? Yeah. Or you felt guilty for going over. So what I did is I sat down and I brain dumped everything I do in my business. Every little minute thing, massive list. So you either get like a big dry erase board or a couple pieces of paper. And I mean, it was like a verbal vomit on paper, like every little thing. And there's a lot that you do in your business, but I wrote it all out.
Yeah.
Then what I did is I looked at it and go, well, can any of these tasks be put in a category? And so what I did is then I would have like 5 other pieces of paper and I would start creating categories. So for example, I would have a podcast category. Everything I do for my podcast goes into that category. Once I had my categories built, then I looked at it and I assigned it like some time.
Ooh.
Well, how much time does it take me to do these categories? So once I knew how much time, then I was able to put a few categories together on specific days. And now those categories are assigned on a day of the week. So instead of having just office hours, I am very down to the category. So I think, for example, for me, my Mondays are planning my week and all social media planning. That's my Monday. I used to only do one day a week for podcasting, but now I'm noticing it's taking a little more time, a little more effort. Now it's 2 days a week, but I'm strategic. Tuesdays is my podcast recording and podcast pitching day.
Oh.
Wednesdays is when I edit and I do all the show notes and all the scheduling and all my blog posts.
Yeah.
So Tuesday and those, and what I like about it, it's towards the beginning of the week. And my podcast is my long form content. So that is something that absolutely needs to get done.
Yep.
And then
That's
Thursdays, yes, non-negotiable. Thursday is all of my my client work or my content creation club work. And then Fridays is like a wrap-up day, expenses. It's all like the little,
little bitty
website
things.
tweaks, all the little things that kind of are easy. Doesn't really matter, but it needs to be done. It's just those tasks that need to be done, but they don't really move the needle. Those are for Friday mornings when I just want to be lazy on Friday and sit with my coffee. So that is how I run it. And I do have a freebie. It's got a workbook to work through it. It's got the brain dump section. And then what's really nice at the end, there's a clickable link and I put it all in a Google spreadsheet for the week of how to block it all in there.
Yep. That's awesome. That's so doable too.
It is doable.
Yeah. And you don't have to start from scratch, because starting from scratch to plan all of that out, that's the overwhelming part, right? If you don't have like a template to use or a pattern to follow or a pathway to go down, that's a really big, helpful thing, I think, because that's going to save us time and mental overwhelm at the same time.
And what's nice too, you might find like 6 months down the road, you might notice something's taking more time, something's taking less time. You can move your categories around and shift your week. Because I used to work Monday through Friday, or I think I used to have my social media planning on a Friday. And I went, you know what? I really don't want to work Fridays anymore. This is my business. Yeah. I'm going to move things around and I'm going to put in for Mondays. And something else, I made sure I had a category for personal development. Because how often do we download things, sign up for a course, and then we never do it? No, we never do it. So I actually created a category for personal development. So at least 1 to 2 hours a week, I'm getting into the stuff to learn and to grow because it's built in to my workflow.
And I really like how you do your podcast recording on one day, because then if you're going to be on camera, for example, you don't have to do hair and makeup every day. You can just do it on recording day.
Yeah. Yeah. I only record on Tuesdays. That's it.
Yeah.
So every Tuesday. And then I also only allow, I think, like 2 recordings on a Tuesday because I know how I am. I can only handle like 2 recordings because I want to make sure I give my guests like my full energy. I've learned this, that I can't have more than 2 interviews on a day. Because by the 3rd one, I'm like,
yes. Or you do
I'm
like
really
8 and by number 8, you got no voice.
Yeah, right. You lose that stamina and that energy. So you start to learn as you build your workflow, it all ebbs and flows, and you'll figure it out where you have the most energy, where you should move categories. Or I used to have interviews on Thursdays, and then I realized it's garbage pickup day. Nobody wants to hear the garbage guy coming down the street. So then like, nope, that's not going to work. We're going to move my workflow. So that's why I really like this system of not establishing business hours. It's a workflow based on my tasks.
I love that. And I do it so every Thursday, I take Thursdays off and I go to the movies. That's my downtime. That's my day off where everyone else is busy working or at school and I just get time for me. And that was a big thing. And it wasn't until I actually put it in my schedule, in my calendar, and blocked it off so that I couldn't get booked for interviews. I couldn't get booked for consults on that day. That's you know what? I feel like some of these habits that we've talked about today all combine. It's like setting boundaries, using your technology and your schedule to reinforce the boundaries for yourself. They're not keeping your phone on you 24/7. They all work so well together too, don't they?
Yes. And then that's when you're going to see the momentum in your business.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So I'm going to make sure then that we've got a link to your project workflow tool in the show notes. So it's really easy for everybody to find. Just go down and click the link and get it from there, because I think that's going to be a game changer for a lot of people. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. I've been using it for 2 years now. And I'm just I tell everybody about this. I'm like, oh, forget the, establishing work hours, just establish a workflow.
Yeah. And then we still get the freedom that we're craving, because it's one of the reasons we started our own businesses. We needed freedom. We needed flexibility. We needed to build our business around our life, not have our life and then cram our business in the last 2 hours of the day. Yeah. Huge difference. So where can people find more from you, Allison, if they want to see more about what you do? So you've got your podcast, website, socials. What's the easiest way for them to find more from you?
Website is easy, bossladyinsweatpants.com.
I love that.
It's my name. I know it's my name on Instagram at Allison Scholes. So those are the two places that you'll get all your information, or just connect with me on Instagram, DM me and let me know how you like this episode and let me know how the weekly project workflow is going for you.
Yes, that's such a good idea, because that follow-up, I think the more we share our ideas and how things are actually working for us, the easier it is for us to take ideas and tweak them to suit our own life and our own business too. And it's nice not to feel alone as well.
Right. Yeah, you're not alone in these habits for sure. I still make them every so often, and then I catch myself and I recognize it and go, okay, let's get back on track.
Yeah, same. Thank you so much for being here, Allison. This has been an amazing chat. Lots of aha moments for me. I've got pages of ideas that I can go with now. And I love that everything is one little step at a time to fix it. I don't feel like, oh, it's going to take me days and days to tweak my business to suit these. It's one little step at a time. It's one little put my phone away, or maybe, turn off my notifications alone. You can just do that today, everybody who's listening. Just turn off your social media notifications and you're going to feel so much freer. And email too. When you get that ding when your email comes through and you're trying to focus on project work, and that ding is super annoying, because then you feel like you have to check the email, like you work for your inbox and you're on call. Turn off your email notifications while you're at it, I say.
Oh, absolutely. I'm about ready to actually delete the app off my phone for email. Oh, I really don't. If I really think about it, do I really need it?
No, because how many times do we open it and we check it and then we feel guilty that we're not responding straight away? And you're mentally committed to the email then. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You're thinking about it. Yeah, so true. Oh my gosh, this has been amazing. All right, everybody. I hope that you have enjoyed listening to our chat as much as I have enjoyed having it with Allison. There are links in the show notes. Go ahead and check out her website and her podcast. Go and get that freebie. You're going to find it really, really helpful. And go and chat on Instagram. It's going to be fun. You're going to have a much easier business and a much easier life, which we love. And I will see you all in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Simpler Business Podcast. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to make it nice and easy for you, just the way we like it. If you're ready to simplify and scale your business, you can get started with my free audio class at marissaroberts.com. See you next time.